Today we're going to look at some amazing and quirky nature photographs from the V&A and RPS photography collection. Some of these include clever blue tits, a greedy ostrich, a one-eyed owl photographer, and the feats of two brothers with a hollowed-out ox. I'm not wearing gloves today because for objects on paper, it's often better to use clean hands because you have better tactility. We're starting off with this image of a rabbit. It was taken in 1852 by the Welsh botanist and photographer John Dillon Llewellyn. It's a really beautiful woodland scene of a rabbit, whimsical ferns curling around. Looks like it could be an illustration for a book or perhaps a documentary photograph detailing how rabbits live in the wild. But the truth is, this image has been staged with a stuffed rabbit. The rabbit is actually a taxidermied specimen placed into what could be its natural environment. Llewellyn was particularly interested in the everyday and documented his family and their surroundings. These magpies on the side of a cottage look every bit believable as an everyday scene, but likewise to the rabbit would have been stuffed specimens artfully placed like they were simply perched at the edge of his cottage. This image shows why Victorian photographers often resorted to using stuffed animals in their pictures. You can see from this image that the horses appear blurred. This is because early cameras had such long exposure times that it would often take several minutes to take a picture. John Dillon Llewellyn had similar issues. In this image of a young boy with lion cubs, one of the cubs was likely squirming around at the time the photograph was taken. We see a blurred head, but someone has added the eyes and nose back in with a pen. This brilliant ghostly photograph of York Cathedral by Roger Fenton has an unexpected canine guest in the frame. Probably the only reason he did show up was because he was held still doing his business long enough for the exposure. There are, however, no issues with blurring in Stephen Dalton's photographs. Stephen Dalton is a pioneering wildlife photographer known for his high-speed images. He would rig up all sorts of cameras and flash bulbs to take photographs up to even 1/60,000th of a second fast. Dalton's images offer such a clear, lush view of wildlife that one of his photographs of a flying insect was chosen to represent life on Earth on the Voyager 1 and 2 probes. Reginald Badham Lodge was one of the first British photographers to take photographs in the field. This 1902 image is of a majestic golden eagle standing on top of its prey. In an early example of Photoshop, Badham Lodge used a wax crayon to hide the more gruesome parts of the dead animal in the eagle's claws. He thought it would be too offensive for his Edwardian audience. This striking photograph is by the prominent wildlife photographer John Markham and tells the tale of a bygone part of British life. Before the addition of tinfoil on milk bottles, it was a common sight to see blue tits and robins skimming the cream from milk bottles delivered by your local milkman. After the tinfoil cap came along, robins never learned to adapt to pecking through the tinfoil, but the blue tits did and taught it to all their friends and family. It wasn't until the arrival of the screw-on cap that blue tits were denied their morning drink. Frederick William Bond was the official photographer of the London Zoological Society, which would become the London Zoo. These were objects retrieved from an ostrich's stomach after its death. Though ostriches often eat small, hard objects to help with digestion, this one unfortunately went too far after swallowing a 4-inch nail. Other objects found include gloves, coins, little nails, items probably lost by visitors to the zoo. This amazing image is by the mid-20th century photographer Eric Hosking. Though we may not think anything of it with our iPhones we have today, this high-speed flash photograph would have required incredible skills and setup for the time. Hosking would actually lose an eye to a tawny owl during a nighttime shoot, though this didn't stop him and he went on to create many more wonderful nature images. He did pay homage to this later though, in his autobiography titled An Eye for a Bird. This image shows brothers Richard and Cherry Kearton. They were popular turn-of-the-century naturalists, famous for their innovative methods they used to photograph in the field. Here we see one brother perched on top of the shoulders of the other. Their tripod extended using sticks, and a large Victorian camera perched on top here. They did all of this to get a photograph of a bird in its nest. As you can see, many of these methods were health and safety nightmares. Here they are precariously up a ladder in a tree. Here they are again, scaling a cliff in order to get close enough to photograph nesting birds. The Kearton brothers would often use large, hollow taxidermied animals, such as a sheep or an ox, as photographic hides. They would conceal themselves inside these animals for hours on end trying to get their shot. One of their most famous hides was a large hollowed-out ox that Richard or Cherry would hide in to take photographs of birds and animals. A comical incident in their careers was when Richard fainted in the ox on a hot day. Cherry, showing utmost brotherly concern, made sure to immortalize the moment in a now iconic photograph. Richard's legs are sticking straight up with the cow's, giving a whimsical image of a six-legged ox. Today, they are among the most well-known British naturalist photographers, and some of their more iconic photographs are beloved documents of historical naturalist photography. These pages are from the Kearton brothers' publication Pictures from Nature that featured highlights from their practice. Increasingly concerned with the conservation of birds and other animals, the text in the book talks about some of their adventures, and the images feature favorites from their collection. I just want to finish with one of my very favorite images from the collection. Thomas Ems was a captain in the British Navy and took many photographs of animals on his seafaring travels. This image of an inflated pufferfish is such a compelling composition, with its flopping hind end, the glistening water drop on the hand. Even though it's a flat image, you almost feel as if you're standing right in front of it.